Reddit ask me anything. I have a neurological disorder that gives me the uncontrollable desire to amputate my own limbs. Ask me anything. Hey Reddit. I have a neurological and psychological disorder that makes me feel the constant need to amputate or lose one of my body parts. Body integrity identity disorder. BID. For me, my BID gives me a constant, extremely powerful urge to hack off my left leg below the knee. I haven't yet, and I don't plan to. Sufferer's symptoms vary, and some have even gone as far as self-amputation. It's a strange condition, and I figured some people here may be interested in what it is like to have BID. So go ahead, ask me anything. Have you seen the episode of Nip Tuck with the guy that has BID? Is it an accurate portrayal? No, I haven't actually, but that sounds interesting. I'll have to check it out. How close have you been to amputating it? The closest I've come was placing it on a train track on my way back home from work. The train was about 30 seconds away, but I was too worried that it could kill me, so I bailed out. Aren't you worried about the pain it will cause? Are you in counseling or some other kind of treatment for this? If so, what is it like? If not, how do you cope on your own? When my symptoms started emerging, I was in treatment, mainly to identify my condition. There isn't any real form of treatment for it, mainly more therapy, which I can't afford, and don't see helping much. What are your coping skills now that you aren't in therapy? I manage to cope pretty well, as I know what makes my urges worse, and try to avoid them. For example, I try not to wear shorts. I also know not to go to my local swimming pool anymore, because I'm forced to walk in front of the pool's viewing area in my swim trunks. The feeling of having people watch me walk by with my bare leg is way too strong, so I try to avoid it. Whoa, really interesting. So, it is worse to have other people see your leg or worse to see your own leg? Thank you for posting and sharing. BTW, I hope this doesn't trigger anything for you. I know talking about things can be helpful or it can be harmful. I think it is the fact that I know people are looking at my leg, which in turn makes me think about my leg more than usual. Does the urge get more intense when you're drunk? Kinda. It's a bit complicated, and has more to do with the context of the situation. For example, I try to avoid walking stumbling home from a bar alone, because it does feel like I have a higher chance of acting on my impulses. It's the combination of having nothing else occupy my mind, allowing it to naturally focus on my leg, and feeling bolder from alcohol. There were a few times where I considered stick my leg out in front of a bus or passing car. I'm guessing the result of sticking your left lower leg out in front of a bus is unlikely to result in simply the loss of your lower left leg. Try not to do this unless you want to lose a lot more than your leg. Yeah, I figured that it'd be awful difficult to get just the leg, and I have no desire to harm any other party of my body, or myself as a whole. I had never heard of this condition before, but I have a cousin who amputated both of his right at mid-thigh level. Apparently he was the classic Jerry Springer case, feeling like he was a woman trapped in a man's body, so one day he tied off one of his legs and cut it off with a circular saw. He passed out from the blood loss. But then when he regained consciousness he repeated the procedure on the other leg. He changed his name to Roberta or something like that, and favorite part of the story, now he lives in a trailer painting murals on hard-boiled eggs. As I'm reading what I've written, it sounds like complete BS, but I assure you it's not. Does this sound like a case of body integrity identity disorder to you? I don't know what to make of it. Is this him by chance? I'm glad I cut off my legs. Jerry Springer. Okay, I just called my mom and she confirmed that this is my cousin in the video. Holy shit, man. Thanks for finding this. I guess I got a few details wrong in my story, but it's definitely him. My mom said she even used to play with him when they were little kids. Whoa, what a coincidence. I remember hearing about this particular story and checked it out because losing my limbs is a rather big and irrational fear of mine. Do you have the urge to remove anything else? How is this treatable, if at all? What is your favorite food? Reminds me of a story in The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, where a guy thinks his leg is not his and wakes up in the middle of the night freaking out and stuff because someone put a leg in his bed. Do you have any similar things happen? Or do you feel that it is fully your own limb and you just want to amputate it? I do not know anything really about the disorder, so maybe my line of thinking is way off. It's just my leg that I want gone. I have heard it varies, though. It isn't really treatable, but therapy is an option. Tacos. That story you were mentioning is about a legitimate condition, but not mine. I forget the name, but it involves falsely attributing a limb's ownership. For me, I am aware that my leg is my own leg. Did you enjoy that scene in Saw when the guy is cutting off his leg? It doesn't really do anything for me. I thought the scene was kinda cool, just in the context of the film, but I didn't get anything else out of it. Just when I thought I couldn't find any more reasons for me not to watch Saw. Oh wow, I think this is one of the most fascinating neurological disorders I've ever come across, if I'm honest. I was watching Casualty UK TV show about a year ago and there was a storyline involving Beide. I Wikipedia'd and was fascinated. How strong are the urges? Do you ever end up making detailed plans? How do you cope or prevent yourself from actually doing physical harm? When was your diagnosis? Did you have to learn to cope from a young age? Thanks. The urges range from aimless wandering to coming close to doing it. I've never made detailed plans, as most of the time it seems impromptu and impulsive. For example, as I posted above, the closest I'd ever come to removing it was setting my leg across a train track. I cope by filling my life with work and activities, as I can almost drown the urges when I am busy. I also try to avoid certain situations, like wearing shorts in public. There's a little more detail somewhere above. When were you diagnosed? Is it genetic? Do you know anybody else with it? I was diagnosed in my late teens, and as far as I know, there is no proof pointing to it be genetic. I wouldn't know. I haven't discussed this with my family. As far as I am aware, I don't know anybody with it, though most people don't tend to reveal amputation urges. If you ever get the surgery to have your lower left leg removed one day, would you get a prosthetic leg foot so you can walk normally, or is the urge to not have anything there at all? I would for sure get a prosthetic, not just so I could walk normally, but because I have a crazy desire to have one. Don't know if this was already asked. Have you done the treatment where you put a mirror next to your right leg and then move it, therefore giving your brain the juxtaposition that even though you know it is your right leg, it is still seemingly your left leg? No, actually, that is interesting. I will try it out sometimes, and hopefully I won't have the desire to amputate both legs. Hahaha, well, I'd hope not. If anything, it would have one of two effects. It could do what you said, and then you'd have a bit of insight into your condition. Then you could just take away the mirror and walk away, no pun intended. Or it could give you a bit of relief, not permanent, as far as I know, and give you some insight into your condition. How I see it, you can't lose. Edit. Yeah, maybe you should seek this treatment. Maybe you shouldn't, but you definitely shouldn't do it without professional help. That's for curing phantom pains if I recall correctly. I'm a lifelong amputee. I had never heard of this disorder until I joined an amputee message board. This guy named George started sending me emails wanting to know all about being an amputee as a child, because when he was a child he dreamed of nothing more than having his leg amputated. He was in his 70s when he contacted me. A few years earlier, he took a shotgun and blasted his leg off. He expressed his pure joy at finally feeling complete. He spent a lot of time giving presentations to medical students and prosthetics professionals. Being an amputee had become his reason for living, and he was a very happy old man. Here's an article about him. He has a few articles out there. Thank you for sharing that. Very interesting. Don't go getting any ideas, please. Amputation maiming scare the $at out of me. Do you know what happens to those who self-amputate? What happens to their urges? Does your brain give you a particular reason why you should do it? I don't know anybody else who has it, so I couldn't tell you about what happens after they amputate. The most commonly accepted theory to why this happens is that there is some sort of neurological failure of the brain's inner body mapping function. Paraphrased from Wikipedia, this part of the brain is located on the right side, and explains why most sufferers, including myself, have problems with limbs on the left side. What's the story behind your diagnosis? I always kind of enjoyed playing cripple as a child, and for a while I thought it was a normal thing for kids to do. Now I'm older, I'm in my early 20s, and those feelings just grew stronger. A co-symptom of being is depression, which I initially sought treatment for. After a while, it became clear that I was not only depressed, but wanted to chop my own leg off. You sound so casual about it. You know, I was depressed. Oh, and I wanted to chop my leg off. When you were playing, was the crippled leg the same leg that now you have a desire to amputate? Yeah, it was. Even now I still do it. If I'm home alone I will find myself walking with a limp. I'm going to try to word this intelligently so I don't get a flood of down votes. When you, for example, put your leg on a train track, did you think about the inevitable pain associated with losing your leg? Is that just like an afterthought? Does the pain seem like not a big deal? To me, if I think about losing a leg, the first thing I think is shit, that would hurt. What is your thought about the pain? I kinda figured if there was still stuff left, it would be surgical removed. How were you diagnosed? At what point did you say to yourself, okay, I might have a problem? Thanks for doing an Ask Me Anything. I answered some of this further up, but I will elaborate. My whole life I've always pretended having a limp or an injury in that leg, and as I got further along into my teens, I started to realize that I would frequently pretend that I had a limp. My I think something is really wrong moment was when I started fantasizing about crashing my car, causing injuries to that leg specifically. I remember watching an episode of Nip Tuck which was about this disorder. A question. What do you think will happen if you did get it surgically removed? Will the desire to amputate another limb arise, or do you think the desire will subside? I really don't know what will happen if I get it removed. The feelings are so strong regarding that one leg, so I have a hard time believing that same feeling could exist elsewhere. Today I learned I have a similar disorder, only mine is the uncontrollable desire to see women naked. I just wanna cut those clothes off. They just feel so damn uncomfortable while wearing clothes. I had an extremely strong desire to cut my fingers off with scissors during a low to moderate acid trip. It's like you're aware that it would be very bad, but there's something about the resistance the blades give against your body that makes you long for the moment they finally overpower your flesh and cut through. It had to be me doing it though. Someone else would still be horrific. I get a similar feeling standing at the edge of high objects. Is this similar for you? Just to chime in, I get the same thing about high places. As a kid I was on the playground once, standing on top of some monkey bars, and I had the sickening urge to jump through the gap in the bars even though I knew I would probably get caught at my head or hit my jaw. Somehow I just glanced my back going down, but I'll never forget that horrific need to do something I knew might kill me. I think it's an impulse control thing, as I've heard the sentiment before. These are relatively common phenomena known as intrusive thoughts. Thanks for this link. I've never even realized my random urge to drive into oncoming traffic sometimes could have anything to do with my ADHD or OCD, or that it was even a thing people had. Probably because that's a ridiculous thing to talk about. Today I learned X2. Row. I feel much better about mine now. Thanks. Today I learned. The urge to jump from high places has a name in French. L'apple du vide. When I had a balcony on the 14th floor, I had a fear in the back of my mind that I would jump and most certainly die. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to jump. I just felt that I could or might. Weird feeling. Do not want. Is this at all connected to sexual feelings? Like, do you think you would look more attractive or find something arousing about the idea of removing the leg or seeing it removed? Any idea why it's your left leg below the knee and not, say, both legs below the knee or something like that? Seems very particular. For me, it is not connected to sexual feelings, but I know for many people it is, and has its own subname, apotemnophilia. I can't explain why it is my leg in particular, but for people with BID, it is most commonly the left limb. This is because it is theorized that the problem stems from a failing in a part of the right side brain. The right side of the brain controls the left side of the body, so that may explain it. Could you pinpoint the exact height at which you would want the leg cut? Like, is the feeling so precise that you'd be able to draw the dotted line? Yep, it is so precise that I could draw a dotted line and only be off by maybe an inch either way. It is very specific. So after just reading the wiki, I want to say I'm sorry you have to live with this feeling. I'm not sure if you'd feel more complete with your leg gone, and I think the idea of someone amputating their own leg is horrible. I realize treatment is complicated from reading the wiki, but I'm afraid you'll give in to the urges someday if you don't get treatment. I don't even know if it'd be a bad thing. Maybe you'd really be more happy afterwards, but it's just a horrible thing to imagine to me. Removing a perfectly healthy leg. If you think of all the stuff you couldn't do anymore with one leg, sports, even walking normally, running, hiking, cycling and all that, does that matter to you at all? Also, would you try and get a prosthetic, SP, or would you just be happy with a stump? It's an interesting condition for sure. Never heard of it until now. So thanks for that. Ro, you made it to the end. You're a ducking beast. Thanks for watching, mate. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more high quality content.